सरहद हो तो बस खुद बनाई सरहद हो। ये मुहिम है परतों में छिपे हर सच की तलाश की, सियासत पर रखी पैनी नजर और आंख की, खबरों की दुनिया में एक जिम्मेदार आवाज की, जुर्म और जुल्म के खिलाफ हर बेबस के लिए इंसाफ की। जब कोई हद नहीं इंसानियत के लिए जज्बात की, जब कोई हद नहीं खुशियों और ख्वाब की, तब कोई हद क्यों हो नए नजरिए और बदलाव की। तोड़ के हदों के ताले नए सपनों को पाले, बांधे सबको एक धागे, आपको रखे आगे। एबीपी न्यूज।
A warm welcome to everybody from the India chapter of the International Advertising Association's Young Professionals. I welcome you all to the second session of the webinar series, Gaming the Next Big Thing. We have had a fantastic discussion in our earlier webinar with Harsh Jain of Dreams 11. As you can see, today we have a fantastic panel from Singapore joining us to enlighten us further on the gaming, the new vertical which we discovered during COVID, the way it is panning out to be the fourth medium for advertisers to be looking at, and of course, the constantly changing world around us with technology becoming more and more eminent and prominent for us to kind of consider. I now would like Sunil to take over the conversation with Chester and Steve. I welcome both of them again to our IAA series, and also to all the IAA members joining from across the world today. I'm very happy to welcome 10 countries of the IAA who are participating today into this webinar. Over to you, Sunil.
Thank you, Janak, and thank you to the IAA team for having us. I feel very excited, firstly, to be here and feel very humbled as well to be moderating a session on such an exciting topic and get in conversations with two of the best we know in the gaming world. So I'm sure there's a lot of interest already. You've just told us that we have people from all across the world joining, so no pressure at all, but I'm sure we'll have a fantastic discussion today. I want to start by saying gaming has evolved from an underground subculture to a growing part of our popular culture. Now that's a massive shift. And today, also, the world is becoming kind of a gamer's paradise, which is all powered by technology and the growth of mobile. Some facts for you to start with. There are almost 3.4 billion gamers in the world today, and an average gaming session can last almost 4.5 hours. Fortnite and Dota, which are kind of two very popular games, the championship cash prizes for esports top almost $30 million, which is almost like a professional sport. And the reports tell us that almost 180 billion will be the size of the gaming industry by 2021, of which almost 877 million will be spent on esports. Now, these are big numbers. And kind of to top out what COVID has done, which is massively impacted the rise of streaming. Recently, Netflix chief executive officer admitted that when it comes to getting screen time competition, it is all about video games that he's worried about more rather than any other competing streaming service. Now, these facts, I'm sure, has got your attention, but let's get into conversation with two experts that we have today on the panel, which is Steve from Twitch, and Twitch is one of the world's leading streaming service for gamers. And we also have Chester from Unity, where Unity is a cross-platform gaming engine and is also the third largest mobile network after Google and Facebook. Firstly, thank you, Chester and Steve, to be here with us and chat more and share your expertise in gaming. Let me actually begin with asking both of them a quick introduction. So, Chester, maybe starting with you. Could you share kind of a brief introduction or background of your journey? Unpack what is gaming to you? And I mean, is it mobile? Is it esports? Is it entertainment? Where does it fit? And tell us a bit more about Unity and how does Unity fit into the gaming ecosystem?
Thank you, Sunil. Great pleasure to be invited for this webinar. Hi, everyone. My name is Chester and I'm based in Singapore. I have been with Unity for 5.5 years, and I manage the operate side of the business in Asia Pacific. This includes advertising, monetization, engagement, and also services. Globally, we have 4,200 employees and around 500 in Asia. My personal journey, I come from a humble background of the pre-iPhone days when it comes to mobile advertising. Back then, it was very difficult to sell the concept to advertisers, but been there, done that. I've been around in the digital advertising ecosystem for almost 14 years, jumping around ecosystems from ad networks, supply side platforms, demand side platforms, trading desks, and today focusing on gaming and adding value to game developers. So to answer the next question, a little bit about Unity and where we believe gaming is.
Yeah,
So
I think that. Sorry, just I think would be great to understand, because gaming is sometimes very difficult to unpack gaming.
Right.
So, a bit more about Unity, your gaming engine, and how does Unity fit into the ecosystem would be really good to know.
Yeah, I think before maybe I continue to explain, why not we show the video so that everyone can get up to speed of what Unity really is. Yeah.
Who first shared their stories in caves, connected art, nature, and science, led us toward new horizons? Who thought to capture motion, spark an engine to life, turn television into a playground? Every day, you create the playful, the functional, and the unexpected. You break down walls and take us to astonishing places. Tell stories, leap borders, and create beauty for tomorrow. Because at Unity, we believe the world is a better place with more creators in it, where everyone has a chance to shape the world.
Right, so I'll give some context to this, like some history, right? So the barrier for game development was extremely high a decade and a half ago. The Unity founders decided to democratize game development by creating a game engine that was very simple, easy to use, and our main goal is to basically solve complex problems that required programming in the past, but today with a click and slide of a button or a knob, we are able to achieve that used to be like 300 lines of code, right? So one thing I always like to tell everyone is that our youngest game developer in Japan is 4 years old, and is a girl, and we are very proud of this small girl, because it actually proves that our software is relatively very easy to use, right? So we give great traction, giving game developers the tools, to create games, and we support more than 20 platforms today, from console, mobile phones to AR, VR devices. Today, we have 1.5 million active creators using our software, and we are proud to also say that 1,000 of the grossing mobile games in the app stores today, 53% are powered by Unity software, right? So the business is actually very simple. We have two divisions. One is the create side of the business. The other side is the operate business. And just to give you something very easy to understand, is that the create side is basically creating the game, right? And the next part of the business is operating the game, right? And this is something that we present to the ecosystem with an end-to-end solution, right? So since I manage the operate business in APAC, maybe I talk a little bit more, if it's okay. Sunil, do you want me to cover the whole thing, or I'll just talk about operate?
Well, I think we will keep having the discussion, but you can absolutely briefly touch on that, Chester.
Right. So basically, operate business in APAC, we do advertising. Basically, in short, we help game developers to acquire new users when they develop a game. Second is also to monetize the game itself by putting advertising inside, and of course to engage gamers on the long run to make sure that the game continues to be exciting for them, right? And this is the use of our analytics solution. Yeah. So I think that basically sums up, what we do.
Thank you, Chester. Interesting to understand some of parts of the Unity business. Over to you, Steve. A quick background, a quick journey. What is Twitch? How does it fit into the ecosystem?
Sure. Okay. Well, thanks, Neil. And thanks to the IAA and everyone joining today. So my background, my name's Steve Ford. I've been with Twitch for almost 6 years. I used to be based in London, where I built and led the ad sales function across EMEA. I relocated to Singapore at the end of 2019 to kind of do the same across the APAC region. And since landing there, we've successfully launched the ad sales function here in Singapore, which is our regional headquarters, Australia, Japan, Taiwan, and most recently Korea. And obviously we've got big plans for further investment across the APAC region. So really excited to be a part of the journey now. What is Twitch and where does it fit? Actually, why don't we start? We've got a short 30-second Twitch sizzle reel, which I think will help kind of everybody understand what Twitch is as a service. So perhaps we can play that, Sunil. So I think that's a really great video that sort of tells the Twitch story of where it is today as a service. But the journey, I think, is a really interesting one and kind of sort of mirrors the growth of gaming as an ecosystem anyway. And I think your question, Sunil, was, sort of what unpack gaming as an ecosystem and where does Twitch fit into it? And I think if we roll the clock back around 10 years or so, there are around 217 million gamers globally, or people who identified themselves as gamers. And as you quoted at the beginning, now it's more like 3.4 billion 10 years later. And so that gives you some idea of the scale and velocity of the growth of the gaming community. And I think that's because of, this expansion of gaming across new platforms that didn't even exist 10 years ago. Mobile gaming on your phone as a platform didn't exist 10 years ago. And today, really, we're sport for choice. We still have many of the gaming classics, FIFA, Mario, GTA, these very well-established gaming franchises. But we also have, this amazing sort of creative moment in time where new games are being developed and being launched and commanding huge audiences and building huge communities. Fortnite, Animal Crossing, Fall Guys. Last year was a bit of a sort of indie game revolution, actually. There was a number of indie hits. Among Us, which is a game developed on the Unity platform, is very popular in my household at the moment. So, the gaming ecosystem is so broad and so big and has grown so fast over the last 10 years that it's really allowed a service like Twitch to establish itself and grow at that same kind of velocity. And so where we are today, if we have a think about the kind of numbers that Twitch puts into the ecosystem, every month we have more than 7 million creators that will go live to their communities on Twitch. Every day we'll have over 30 million DAVs, daily average visitors. And they're all coming together typically to share experiences around gameplay. But Twitch has also become sort of much broader as a live experience platform. And so you can experience music and art and creativity. There's lots of different types of content, all with a kind of gaming idea at its heart and at its core. And I think that's where the interesting sort of part to your question really comes, the power of gaming and where it is today, driven by technology, driven by those huge audience numbers. 10 years ago, 217 million people, and, all of the other sort of cultural aspects of our lives, music, sports, arts, education, fashion, film, whatever, gaming was sort of on the periphery of that, to where we are today, where gaming is very much at the center of those cultures. 10 years ago, you'd have made a movie, a Hollywood movie, and they'd have spun out a game from it. Today, you're making a game and they spin out the movies, and I think that's really where we are today, in the power of gaming and the respect that it should command from, brands and audiences alike.
Thank you, Steve, for your point of view, and Twitch, and then Chester, on your point of view from Unity. I mean, I also have a small background story. So the reason I actually moved from an engineering game development background into gaming was because we were trying to promote one of the games, and I actually enjoyed the marketing part more, and that's how it got me into the world of advertising. So guys, I'm Sunil Naryani. I'm part of Dentsu International, and I head up partnerships and commercials here for APAC. Really excited to be here with both of our experts. And moving on to the point of rise of gaming, everybody's seen that COVID has been a massive challenge for us, and most of the business have struggled. Gaming is probably one of those businesses that has actually seen a benefit coming out of gaming. People are at home, they need better ways to entertain themselves, and they have kind of stuck to gaming. Animal Crossing, Steve, as you mentioned, seen kind of blown through the roof. The Fortnite 2 release as well, much anticipated, again, blown through the roof. So what are you seeing as the impact of COVID from your perspective? I mean, it could be creators, it could be your game company strategies. And lastly, focused on APAC. So how are you seeing this change and impact from COVID on the overall industry? Maybe, Steve, could we begin with you first?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the many impacts of COVID, and when you think about how it's affected all of us and all of our lives, travel restrictions on business, schools, etc. One of the impacts that we've seen is a massive increase in how audiences come to the Twitch service, and that's both on the creator side and the viewer side. So driven by those restrictions around COVID, we had, I think, just over 30 million people who came to Twitch and decided to stream for the very first time. So we call them born creators. And that's a huge amount of people that have come to the service and started to experiment with live streaming as a way to connect with others, as a way to, really build and establish communities. And that's driven, an increase in those creators that can actually generate monetization options from Twitch. We call them either affiliates or partners. And if you think about it, this is very much a kind of a sort of flywheel effect. The more creators that come to Twitch and start experimenting with gameplay or other forms of content and build communities, the more viewers. Some of those viewers then feel confident and emboldened to become creators and build their own communities in their own right. And so that's what we've seen generally over 2020. I think the impact of COVID time-wise and geographically has started to sort of show some different aspects to that data, depending on where you look at it, where you are in the world. There's still a lot of restrictions in most countries around the world, but less so perhaps in APAC. And so what we've seen is, we've seen a really successful sort of creator and viewer retention story in APAC, as those sort of born creators have started to sort of flatten. That curve has started to flatten a bit as life returns or starts to return to something that looks like normality. But they're still they've discovered Twitch. They've established themselves on Twitch, and they're still coming back. Whereas some of those born creator graphs are still moving like that in other parts of the world where restrictions are a little bit perhaps harsher than what we're experiencing here in APAC at the moment.
Thank you, Steve. So did you spend more time on Twitch during COVID?
I spent a ridiculous amount of time on Twitch. I'm a great music lover, actually, and so the growth of the music channels on Twitch was really helpful and valuable to me during these times. I would actually sort of wake up on a Saturday morning here in Singapore, find a live stream with the type of music and typically sort of DJs that playing the type of music that I'm into. And I'd have it on, throughout the house all day. I'd come and sit at my desk and I'd watch and I'd interact and I'd chat for a while, but, then I'd go away and still be on. I found that really, really helpful for me and my circumstances during COVID, definitely.
Surely. Chester, what about your point of view on the impact of COVID on probably Unity, and how do you see the gaming companies working through that?
Just to add on to what Steve said, during the COVID lockdown in Singapore, I was using Twitch every day, watching games, watching how they compete and how to actually, when they do their esports competition, I was watching it literally every day during the lockdown. So to talk a little bit about Unity. So during 2020 March, as most of you know, last year, right, the WHO actually declared the global pandemic. We literally saw an increase of 46% daily active user increase in HD gaming and 17% increase in mobile gaming. And while there was this 17% increase in mobile gaming, ad impressions increased by 57%. Revenues surged around 59%. Yeah. While there was this huge increase of supply, we saw eCPMs globally dipped around 3% compared to 2019. Non-gaming advertisers were pulling their brakes on campaigns when WHO declared it was a global pandemic. And we saw non-gaming ads, eCPM especially, tanked a lot back then. And one of the interesting things was that the number of ads watched per user during the pandemic was literally increased by 14%. So more and more people staying at home, playing their games, are actually watching more and more ads, right? So the gap between weekend and weekday, there used to be a huge gap, right? Monday to Friday, you go to work. Weekends, you stay at home, it's your me time. We saw that narrowed by 63%. Literally every day felt like a work day, right? For most of us, or a weekend, depending on what job you're doing. On top of this, Unity, we saw microtransactions, which is your in-app purchases in games, that increased by 24%, right? So when you're stuck at home, you can't go to the mall, you probably want to buy something digital to indulge, right? Which is understandable because my e-commerce shopping budget was like doubled, ever since I was in COVID lockdown. So in Unity for APAC, the mission has always been the same. We believe the world is always better, with more creators in it. And our products actually give content creators the tools to create innovative, real-time 3D experience, regardless of what kind of console you want to develop in. And we want to develop better process for our content providers to make sure that everything is simple and easy to use. Even a 4-year-old kid can actually develop a game. In APAC, we see huge growth. We see a lot of growth coming from India, right? We see a lot of growth coming from up and rising Vietnam, right? And Indonesia, I believe, may be the next big thing if they get to globalize the way how they develop games. Yeah.
Fabulous, thank you. I mean, and speaking more about the audiences being on the platform, and shifting gears more towards marketing, because we have a lot of marketers as well, probably who've tuned in. And I think, Steve, to your point as well on Twitch, I see some comments from the viewers. So it does seem that music is quite popular on Twitch. People did use that during the lockdown. But moving on to a question on marketing, right? So talking about audiences and who plays games. So modern day gamers, I mean, I don't think, and I'm sure now, given all the facts that we have, they're no longer bored teens. Every third person probably is a gamer, but many of these users have a very strong buying power, which kind of matters for most of our marketers. And so the question probably to you first, Chester, any pro tips for marketers? Given you mentioned that Unity serves about 23 billion impressions a month. I'm sure scale is not a challenge there. But how are you connecting with the brands? Is brand safety really a problem? Is ad fraud really a problem? And how should marketers kind of utilize all your platforms and offerings to do better marketing and then reach out to this massive audience out there?
I'll try to remember all your questions, but
Sorry, maybe I'm asking too many questions. I'll break it down.
I mean, let's start with 5.5 years ago when I first joined Unity. I was tasked to visit as many advertisers as possible, both gaming and non-gaming. I did my rounds around APAC. I went to almost every single advertising agency out there to actually evangelize about advertising in the gaming world, right? 5.5 years ago, the reply was very consistent. It was like, my brand is not comfortable putting ads in games, right? And we persevered. We continue to evangelize on a yearly basis. And the interesting part today, right? I have some numbers. Today, programmatic ad spend, which is non-gaming, increased 44% from 2019 to 2020 in the US, right? Brand ads contributed about 1% of our overall spend in 2016 and 2017. That was about 5 years ago. Today is 23%, right? So we're seeing a lot of brand activity coming into the gaming ecosystem. Well, today mainly the US is buying the bulk of media when it comes to non-gaming and reaching out to gaming audiences. Brand owners like automotives, FMCGs, financial institutions are reaching out to the next generation of consumers, right? 99% of our inventory are mobile games, right? We have very high completion rate because most of our ads are opt-in rewarded ads. In short, basically gamers choose to watch an ad and get rewarded, right? And when it comes to fraud, I always speak about this passionately. The game developer have too much to lose if they fraud in the game itself, because you need to get approval to be placed in the App Store. That's one, right? You're using Unity software, right? And if you're using Unity ads and you're frauding us, we would definitely do a block, right? And the cost is too high for them to fraud on ads. And when it comes to brand safety, there are mobile store verification on content. We have demand partner verifications. We work with only the reputable DSPs out there that is buying into our ecosystem. We are also compliant with all privacy regulations around the world, right? And to talk about how marketeers, pro tips for marketeers is that I think games are like everyone else, right? Gamers, I meant. They consume food, they aspire to own their next car, they take a holiday, manage their finances, educate, engage in technology, and much more. So, and also one stereotypical perception of gamers that it's always 90% men, which is totally not true. And you'll be surprised with the data that is not the case, right? There is almost a 50-50 split in today's world, that an equal amount of women are playing games as men, right? So I think the advertising fundamentals follow the eyeball, you know, and there's a paradigm shift of how we are consuming media today. And today, the new generation, including myself, including my mother, are spending a lot of time playing games, during these times. Yeah. So I think that's about it.
Thank you, Chester. Probably the same question for you, Steve. I mean, and especially with Twitch being a streaming service and live entertainment becoming really really popular, where I believe brands must stay authentic to what they mean and how they behave and what their purpose is. Because the gamers are, they're not the bored teens anymore. They're smart guys out there. So, from your perspective, how should brands engage with Twitch? And what are you seeing in terms of brand monies and investments? Are they on the rise?
Yeah, I mean, the story that Chester just shared actually is a bit similar to my own story at Twitch when I first landed in 2015 back in the UK to build the first sort of ad sales function outside of the US, where we typically spent a lot of time with media buying agencies and some clients direct, talking about the Twitch service and how you could buy advertising in it, typically around creator and their communities, around gameplay. And at that time there was little knowledge around the true kind of profile of a Twitch creator and their communities, or indeed the broader gamer. And it took probably about a year of sort of hard work and evangelization, to sort of start to win hearts and minds. But within that year, we actually saw at Twitch in Europe the majority of our revenue shift from endemics. So by endemics, I mean gaming advertisers and anybody within the entertainment category, to non-endemics. So what that means is within a year, we'd seen such a huge increase in investment from all types of categories: automotive, finance, CPG, FMCG for those of us based in Europe. That it had overtaken endemic spend, and that's really where we are today. As we commented earlier on, the huge increase in gaming audiences, whether that be across the whole ecosystem or on services like Twitch, means that brands need to be involved. And so the good news is, I think, for those brands, that there isn't, if you're not involved already, there probably isn't a better time to start engaging with gaming communities. And if you come to Twitch, you can buy ads today. You can buy ads through IO or programmatically. The typical behavior we see from brands is that they will start to sort of include Twitch on their plans, use all of their tools, all their audience verification vendors, all of their third-party verification vendors, to really measure the performance of a media buy on Twitch versus any other source of supply. And what they find is that we perform really well, and this is a really key sort of metric to take away. We perform really well because the audiences on Twitch are highly engaged, and their average viewing time per visit is 104 minutes. They're not coming in to snack on content. They're coming in to actually be a part of the community that they feel they belong to. And their highly engaged behaviors include talking directly to the creator that will speak directly back to them, and connecting with other members of the community that share the same passions and interests that they do. And so once a brand has gone through that and actually made some test buys and seen all of that great data come out, the next behavior that we typically see is one where a brand will come to us and say, okay, we've established ourselves, we have a dialogue with these communities, how can we really go deeper into those communities? What can we do with you to perhaps work with the influencers and creators directly? And that's where, Twitch, we offer our managed service, our brand partnership studio, to sort of take that engagement beyond a 30-second video ad. And actually, I've got one more video, Sunil, that I think sort of really speaks to that kind of sort of deeper brand engagement. It's from a partnership with Coca-Cola that really sort of positions that brand in an authentic way, and as a brand that is actually empowering communities on Twitch. So maybe if we have a quick look at that, 30 seconds long, and then I'll sort of close out my answer to your question.
Absolutely. Can we please have the video?
What the hell? What's going on?
Wait, oh my gosh.
Coke, are you serious right now?
What?
You're invited to the Twitch partner program.
I just got partnered.
We got partner, boys.
What? Coke Gaming, what is this? Wow, Coke Gaming, thank you so much for the 10,000 bits.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Coach.
We got partner, we got partner, we got partner.
So I love that video. What you're actually seeing there are these amazing moments in time where someone that's been streaming on Twitch, has been investing a lot of their time, a lot of their energy, a lot of their passion. They've probably been streaming 5, 6, 7 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week for a certain period of time to actually build the community around them, and have finally sort of realized what is for a lot of them their life's ambition, their life's dreams, to become fully partnered by Twitch. And what we've sort of created is a really authentic way to bring Coke into that moment, deeply inserted into the communities when you've got that amazing sort of moment of reward and celebration, which I think is something that, if you look back at Coke marketing campaigns over, the last decades, is very much, how they like to position their brand and how they like to communicate with consumers. So I think, just to summarize, there's lots of ways that you can get involved with Twitch. There's lots of ways that you can get involved with the broader gaming community. But, being authentic, being thoughtful, understanding, what your product, your service, your message is, and how you want to communicate with those communities is really important.
Fabulous, Steve. By the way, that video did got a lot of people thinking of what the UI is. I have one question from the video though, probably for the benefit of the wider audience. What is Bits? Everybody was so excited to receive this thing called Bits. What is that?
Yeah. Bits are a virtual good that is native to the Twitch service. So, you can come to Twitch, you can buy 100 bits. It will typically cost you $1 or equivalent in a local currency. And then you use them to, like a donation tool, you use them to give to a creator when you want to celebrate a moment in time. So if a creator, I don't know, if they're playing a game, they finish a level particularly quick, or, they do something that requires, some sort of celebratory moment, then you can actually use those bits and donate them to the creator, and obviously the creator receives those as a financial reward. So Coke obviously funded part of that. We were able to create Bits. They have their own sort of like digital design, and they move and they're animated when you use them on the Twitch platform, and we were able to bring brand logos into that moment as well. So there was a special kind of Coke bit that we created for them, and as you can see there, donating 10,000 bits to a creator is a significant moment.
Thank you. Interesting fact, Steve. We also have a few questions from the audience, so I'm just going to take the liberty of asking you a few. This one is from Nisha Raisingani. Brands have taken to gaming to highlight a new product service. According to you, what makes gaming a standout from conventional modes of advertising and marketing? Maybe we can go with you first, Chester.
Sure. I think what makes gaming stand out, well, as I mentioned earlier on, we are seeing a paradigm shift of how people consume media, right? Back then, there was the laptop, traditional web, and then people hopped onto mobile internet, and see the consumption has literally increased. I think that was also the same when Facebook opened up their mobile service, where they saw a huge, significant increase in mobile traffic compared to computers. This is the same, basically. We see a lot of people that are actually spending a lot of their attention on games. Games is bite-sized, right? It's not something that you need to watch an hour. A game session typically lasts about 7-8 minutes, in the typical game. And we see that with these long session times, you can actually engage gamers while they're doing their thing. It could be somewhere, when they're in the subway, they're playing games. It can be anything. So I think for this, there is a difference. And as I mentioned earlier on, the session time, the viewability is high for Unity because it's opt-in. People choose to see ads instead of ads being stuffed into their face, right? That's one. Number two is the viewability is always very, very high. The completion rate, is very high. Yeah.
Great. Steve, any quick points from you on how does Twitch stand out as a platform or a service for advertisers compared to other traditional modes?
Yeah, I think there's the first part of what Chester said I wholeheartedly agree with. It's about where people spend their time, right? And that's where brands, need to be. And that is and has been changing quite dramatically for, the last sort of 10 years, let's say. So, combined with the rise of gaming, you've seen a decline in young audiences spending time on traditional media channels. TV is a great example of that, right? And so that first part of, attention economy, needing to invest your marketing dollars where actually people are spending their time, there's no doubt that gaming is, consuming a lot of people's time on a daily basis. Where I think Unity and Twitch are probably different is around what I spoke to in the previous answer, which is the length of time that viewers spend on Twitch, typically, every time they come to the service. And the reality is that they're spending that amount of time because they are highly engaged with the creators that they love. These people are effectively the TV stars from another era. They're their heroes. And they're able to engage with them, in a very kind of meaningful, almost one-to-one manner sometimes. But also like-minded members of the community that share the same passions and interests. So when you bring all of that, all those magical components together, you actually get a really powerful opportunity to, insert your brand, insert your message, whether that be a 30-second ad or whether that be something that's a little bit more integrated into the community itself. You have this really powerful opportunity to really leverage that value exchange that's happening. And the impact of that is tremendous. And so that's what we tend to kind of see from, a lot of the post-campaign analysis that we'll run with our advertising partners, is that you'll see the metrics of, brand affinity, brand uplift, propensity to buy, all those kind of metrics go up because of those high engagement levels that we see on Twitch.
See, that's great. Steve, one more question again from the audience. This is from K. Satish. He's enjoyed the insights, firstly, from you guys, so thank you for that. His question is, give some inputs on where gaming community is lacking, whether creators or marketing or sponsorships. What is the gap that needs to be filled? And probably I'm going to push it to you, Steve, for this one.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. The beauty of that question is that there is this is a sort of uncharted territory, right? 10 years ago, services like Twitch did not exist. We are creating new economies for creators, new ways for communities to form around creators. And our job is to really sort of innovate and create monetization opportunities for those creators on our service. And so how brands get involved in that, whether that be through advertising, sponsorship, deeper integrations, a lot of those pathways, a lot of those journeys are yet to be written, are yet to be had. And I think that's the really exciting part of the ecosystem that we work in, is that, once we establish a relationship with an advertiser, really, the limit to how we work with them are just the limits of our own imagination, and we can genuinely inspire both advertising partners and creators and their communities to deliver, really interesting, media first, and, win those coveted awards that we all love to win when we're recognized by our peers. Yeah.
Absolutely, Steve. Cool. Thank you so much for your point of views. We are actually running out of time, but I'm very, very keen to ask you one last question. Looking into the crystal ball, or probably, future gazing, in 20 seconds, what do you feel is going to be the future of gaming? How is it going to evolve? Maybe I'll start with Chester first.
Future gazing. I think the future for gaming and advertising is through immersive gaming, and for advertisers to engage them in a totally different world, a mixed reality perhaps. AR is one of the things that is up and coming. VR, we actually have an IAB app format for VR called the Virtual Room, where you can be playing Dungeons and Dragons in a virtual reality, and you go into the room, suddenly you appear in a car showroom, right? And you have to complete a few a few action points before you actually get a reward in a different world. That would be very fun. We see a lot of brands adopting AR today. Wayfair in the US, IKEA is actually overlaying furniture, trying to engage customers, like what your chair would look like if this is your house, right? That is also one thing that I think it's the future.
Thank you, Chester. Steve?
Yeah, I think definitely, VR was the beginning, AR where it is today, as those technologies develop, I think that's hugely exciting. I think this idea that, as gaming becomes more fixed as the sort of the fulcrum around which a lot of other cultures revolve, as we sort of spoke to earlier, I think you'll also see this sort of conversion of cultures and technology. And we're starting to see a little bit of that already with, games that are almost cinematic in their feel. I don't think we're that far away from, going to the cinema or having a cinematic film type experience where you can pick up a controller or you can pick up some way of interacting and just dive into that movie and a particular scene and, play the game with all the main characters of that movie, then dive out again and treat it more like a movie. I think, we're not too far away from true sort of cultural convergence across, things like cinema, movies and gaming. I'm hugely excited by the opportunities there, definitely.
Certainly sounds really exciting. Thank you so much for your time. I do think that we've all enjoyed some of your expert comments. Clearly, gaming is a new way in which marketers should interact and engage with the audience. The communities are growing. Unity and Twitch are doing a lot to ensure that the communities keep getting nurtured and more gamers are coming on the play. So thank you again for all your inputs today. I hope that everybody found it valuable. We did, from an agency standpoint, where we're helping marketers figure their brand strategies and figure gaming in the best way to kind of leverage. I do think there's a lot of learning out there. I do agree that we need to start with the basics. It does show as a new platform where it's more on attention, as well as definitely is going to provide a lot more immersive experiences as we go into future. So we will keep working on this and we'll keep in touch with you. I hope you enjoyed the session. Over to Janak to close the session today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Chester. It was indeed a very, very engaging session that we have had with you. And must admit the VR and the AR piece that got into the conversation towards the end is something that stays with all the brand driven or advertising and marketing driven professionals that we have with us here today. Thank you all for your time and for all your support to make this conversation very engaging and beneficial. Once again, gentlemen from Singapore, thank you. Looking forward to
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.